enter here. And mute this. And then go to stream announcement, paste, and then we go and bring out the pop chat. So that's there. That email should be saying, you're live on YouTube. Yay. All right. All right. All right. So, hey guys, Renner and Shades here, exercising my... Why am I fucking fumbling over this? Hey guys, Renner and Shades here, exercising my First Amendment rights, literally stream style. I'm secretly Leafy. Oh my goodness. You know what? Sometimes I wish you were. That would be really fun. Anyway, so yeah, this is pretty hot right now. The termination of Mr. Calvin Vale, aka LeafyIsHere, or rather, Leafy was here, or isn't here, or ain't here, or whatever you would like to, you know, call him at this moment in time. Got a good bit that I want to talk about regarding this, because, you know, there's a lot of interesting things that I've been thinking about ever since finding out about the termination of this gentleman. So, I'll start things out by, I guess, giving a little backstory of my impression of Leafy over time. I first learned who he was sometime in, like, the beginning of 2016, and I didn't really think anything of it. His videos didn't really look like they were for me, you know, just didn't really seem like the kind of stuff that I want to watch. Then, sometime later, comes the H3H3 Leafy rant, and from there, that's when I started thinking, okay, yeah, I knew there was probably something I wasn't gonna like about him, because that video framed him to be kinda shady and weird and just obnoxious, and I can understand, you know, why people would take issue with that, and, you know, that was like the most thought I had really given it at the time. Then, about a week later or so, I remember being in college at this time and sitting in one of my classes. I believe this was my multimedia communication class, and I have my computer with me because I take notes there, and occasionally I, you know, sneak some time to goof around, you know, on the internet and whatnot. And I remember, you know, reading things in the H3 subreddit, which is something I very rarely do since I don't, you know, have a Reddit account, but I was reading things over there regarding the whole situation between him and Leafy, and that's when I had found out that Leafy responded to that video, and this is like the only video that I ever watched of Leafy's, and what I thought of that video, this is sort of a pet peeve of mine whenever people respond to criticism, is they don't really spend as much time either conceding to the criticism or clarifying things about it or refuting it or anything like that. Most of this video of him responding to H3H3 was, you know, just basically just saying no you to him, and I'm like, I don't think I like this. I mean, I know it might come off like I'm just, you know, some fanboy of H3H3, but that video just didn't really leave a good taste in my mouth, especially when, you know, he was just, you know, having kind of a no you attitude about that whole thing. And that was like the most thought I had really given that. And, you know, from there, you know, I didn't really give much thought to Leafy. You know, I just saw him as just some douche who makes stupid videos roasting people and pointing and laughing at people and all that. You know, never thought that he was, you know, a scumbag. Never really thought of him as a great guy or anything like that. Never really thought of him as anything more than just some douche and nothing really more. But he was gaining a lot of momentum at the time. You know, he was getting a lot of attention for making those, you know, roasting, you know, commentating over gameplay videos, roasting people and all that. And, you know, and I guess it's fine if people like that. It's not really my thing. Like, my thing with commentary videos is I like them to have a point. And the thing with, you know, reaction-based videos is I like those to be funny. And Leafy just really didn't strike me as either of those. And that was basically what my impression of his was from, like, I think it was like March of 2016 or April, all the way until the Leafy Content Cop came out around September. And that video didn't really change my perception of it either, because, you know, the point of the Leafy Content Cop wasn't really, you know, to expose Leafy or really, you know, picking him apart or anything like that. The point of the video, as stated by one EmpLemon, who, just a warning, I'm probably going to be simping a lot throughout this stream. As he put it in his Leafy video, which if you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend you watch it, and the follow-up video, because it's going to give a lot of insight to how I feel about this and the nature of this whole thing. I've learned more about YouTube from those two videos and from Emp in general than anywhere else. But anyway, the way he put it in his video was that the point of the Content Cop was to beat Leafy at his own game and display a sheer display of dominance over him. That's what the point of it was. And it was entertaining. I thought it was very entertaining. It's not my favorite Content Cop. My favorite Content Cop would be... It's a toss-up between the Keemstar one and the Tana Mongeau one. I'm never really able to decide which of them I like more than the other. They're both great. They both have really good messages, and they're both just really fun to watch. And the Leafy one is also very fun to watch. Unfortunately, you know, got fucking taken down by that fun policy that we're going to be referencing later. But anyway, you know, since the point of the Content Cop wasn't to really expose anybody, you know, it didn't really change my impression. I didn't think that, oh, this guy's a scumbag or anything like that. I just saw it as, you know, yeah, just some douche who makes really dumb videos and all that. And that's really all I really took it as. I didn't understand at the time why people were hyping the iDubbbz versus Leafy, you know, thing up, because I really just didn't think it was really anything more than just, you know, roasting a guy that roasts people. And that's really all it really was. Nor was it really, you know, iDubbbz's intention with that. It wasn't to expose him. It wasn't even to, you know, change people's opinion about him or to get people to turn on him or anything like that. Because I remember him saying at the time to anybody who was unsubscribing from Leafy because of him that they're stupid and whatnot. And I can kind of agree with that because, again, nowhere in the video did Ian ever say, unsubscribe from this guy. I don't want anybody subbing to him or anything like that. Fuck you if you're subbed to him. Fuck you if you don't side with me on this. You know, it wasn't anything like that. I didn't really look at that whole thing as, like, drama or anything like that. It was more so people on the outside viewing it as drama, as well as Leafy himself kind of taking it as drama, hence why he responded to it pretty shittily. That was my impression around there, and, you know, my impression didn't really change from there. You know, my impression did change a little by the time I remember watching the video made on Leafy by a guy called Hey Watch Your Mouth. Really interesting little rant that video was, where he talks about how Leafy took advantage of him and basically kind of used him and took him for granted and just, had him around for convenience and all that. Really interesting video. And that was like the most my impression of Leafy really changed was, I thought at that time, like, okay, yeah, that's really douchey, honestly. iDubbbz versus Leafy sounds like two edgelords having a slap fight, I guess. I don't know. Again, I don't really think that was really Ian's intention with the video. It was just to poke fun at him and just, like I said, beat him at his own game. And that's all I really see the video as. But from there, this was like late 2016 when that video came out. Because after that, I stopped really hearing about Leafy. No one was really talking about him anymore, aside from saying, oh, Leafy's irrelevant now. And I'm thinking, yeah, I can kind of see that, because I don't hear shit about him anymore. I don't see his videos anywhere anymore. I mean, obviously I was never subbed to him, so I don't really see his videos anyway, but, no one's talking about him anymore. And then, by like the end of 2017, he stopped uploading. And this is where I'm going to start referencing Emp. Because one thing that he spends a lot of time on in his video is how it wasn't Content Cop that really killed Leafy or destroyed him or, fuck. Why am I forgetting the word? It didn't, like, damage his credibility or anything like that, because if you've noticed, that doesn't really happen with any of the people that he does Content Cop on, because pretty much everyone, at least, or most of the people, I should say, that iDubbbz has done a Content Cop on, they're still around, they're still active, so it's not like they fell off the face of the earth after the Content Cop came out or anything like that. That didn't happen with Keemstar, unfortunately, didn't happen with Tanamanju, didn't happen with Ricegum, didn't happen with any of them. But one thing that was also noted in that video was that around the time that Leafy started, sort of finding himself kind of buried was around the time that the demonetization system first came out. And it was at that point in the video that Emp showed a screenshot of a guy by the name of Tower Dog talking about an alleged secret meeting of YouTube staff where they were talking about what to do about some problematic content creators. And among the names mentioned were Leafy, Keemstar, GradeAUnderA, Scarce, and Onision. And maybe there were more people mentioned, I don't know, but that was one thing that was allegedly discussed, is what to do about these really problematic people. And when the demonetization first came out, you started seeing the effects really kind of taken off with Leafy, because his viewership was going down. He wasn't really, going anywhere. And next thing you know, he becomes kind of so fed up with this that he just, stops making videos altogether until earlier this year, which we'll get to later. He just stopped. And it wasn't even because of the Content Cop. The Content Cop was sort of the cover-up, I guess. It was just, kind of right place, right time, I guess. But in actuality, it was these outside effects. And I'm mentioning this because I remember talking about this a little in Best Songs of 2019 when the harassment policy was announced about, creator-on-creator harassment and whatnot, and how vague that was. I remember thinking at that time that that policy was sort of created to justify what YouTube was allegedly doing to Leafy, and just sort of hindering him from growth and really just trying to shut him down and whatnot. And when he stopped making videos, I'm sure those people at YouTube were like, oh, the problem took care of itself, hey. And just went about their day and whatnot. But then when he comes back, he's like, what? So I really feel like based on all of that, YouTube really had it out for the guy. And it's not that I can't understand why, because, I'm not a fan of his. I was never a fan of his. I was never into his content. I definitely understand why people wouldn't like it, because I don't really like it either. Like I said, he's just some douche to me, and, and nothing really more. But YouTube obviously saw him as being worse than I personally really think he should have been treated, because obviously it goes without saying, there's worse fucking people on this site than Leafy. I mentioned one just a little bit ago, actually. Keemstar, Onision. You don't need to fucking tell me twice. They're worse than Leafy could ever dream of being. And yet they've somehow managed to kind of, skate by and sort of fly under the radar, I guess. Like, I'm sure YouTube probably wants to do something about them, because they know how, I guess, I don't want to say problematic again, I want to use a different word. They know how tantalizing the two of them, among other people, are on the site. Yet they somehow view Leafy as being, bad enough that they needed to pull those strings with him. And now we're at a point where his channel is now terminated. But before I get to talking about that, let's talk about, his return. Like 2 years later or 3 years later, after he had stopped making videos, I had already had, an issue with this, because, y'all remember the stream I did when I was talking about the iDubbbz simp situation. I really feel like Leafy coming back was really just to have the last laugh with that, and I thought that was really childish. And it's like, come on, man. If you're going to come back to making videos, I can understand if you wanted to come back because you miss the fun that you used to have with making videos, you miss the excitement, you miss the adrenaline, you miss the thrill, because these are normal things that people feel whenever they make videos on here, and they take a break, they stop, they lose the motivation, they run out of energy, and then some time goes by and they are feeling nostalgic for, all the cool shit they used to do on here, and then they decide, what, I want to give this another try. I'm going to come back. I'm going to try to recapture that fun that I used to have and see if I can actually have fun and not burn myself out and not, feel crappy about everything. And, these are things that people I know, these are emotions that people I know have gone through. These are things that, other channels I'm subscribed to have gone through. These are normal things that happen on here. I can understand if that was the case with Leafy, but it just seemed like he was just coming back to say, ha ha ha, people are, dunking on this guy who made a video on me that got really big, so I'm gonna fucking get the last laugh, ha ha ha. And it's like, and that reinforced by the time he made a video in regards to the whole H3H3 and Keemstar drama that was going on. He was just, like, I can understand Leafy resenting iDubbbz for the content cop. I can understand him resenting Ethan for the Leafy rant. I can understand that. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that. I still found it childish, though. But then, from there, it looked like he was just back to uploading. It's like, oh, okay. Because another thing, I'm going to take a swig first. I shared this kind of viewpoint at the end of the Trapped video, but I talk about, I replied to your comment asking that already, Rockin' D, about, ranking the other Guitar Hero soundtracks. I'm pretty much done doing that. But anyway, as I was saying, I like to think that most people have it in them to self-reflect, learn from their mistakes, and try to, they have it in them to turn themselves around and try to change for the better. I like to think that most people have it in them. The only people that don't have it in them are the people that are basically, the true lost causes that just don't change. They refuse to change. They'll never change. All that. You should know some people that I'm definitely thinking of when I think of, true lost causes. But with most people, I don't like viewing them as such. I like to take an optimistic approach and think that, hey, maybe after enough time, taking some time out to take a step back and all that, maybe, they'll, come back and have a different attitude, and it'll be, pretty smooth from there. I had hopes with that with Chris Taylor Brown. I have that kind of hope with a lot of people. And Leafy, I suppose, was another one I had that hope with. I figured, if he was gonna, stop making videos and then, come back after some time, that kind of self-reflection would have taken place. But, at the same time, you gotta wonder, did it really? Especially when we get to what got Leafy terminated, which was a series of like 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12, I think. I forget how many it was, but it was all about an individual by the name of Pokimane, which the most I really know about her is that she was someone that, was going after sponsors and whatnot. That's all I really know about her. I don't really care to look into that situation, and I don't really think it, I need to for the purpose of this. But the point is, Leafy made a lengthy series of videos, all having to do with her, and I can understand if YouTube might have looked at that as, targeted harassment and whatnot, because it's all about, like, one person, and it's multiple videos. I can understand that. But the thing about this harassment policy, just like I was saying before, it's so vaguely worded. They don't make it clear what is defined as harassment or creator-on-creator harassment, because I remember a lot of people at the time, especially people that specialize in making opinion-based videos like this, they were skeptical and fearful that, they're trying to basically just sort of kill this entire genre of videos. They're trying to kill the entirety of commentary on YouTube and whatnot, just because it could be seen from a stretch as harassment and whatnot, when that's not true. Not everybody who makes this kind of content does so with the intent of being a jerk. Some people do it, or most people do it, I should say. A lot of people do it with the intent of giving some genuine criticism and whatnot. I'm someone that likes giving genuine criticism. If I ever, make a video on a specific individual or a specific group of people, the only people I don't really give that kind of respect to are just people that I just don't respect at all. Like, MDA is somebody that I don't respect. UTF is somebody that I do not respect. Other than that, anybody else that I've ever made a video on, any singular person that I've ever made a video on, I don't hate them. I don't hate them. They're not the kind of people that I think it's warranted to be a dick to and whatnot because I don't respect them and whatnot. So, but outside of those kinds of instances, I'm the kind of person that likes being, honest and genuine when giving criticism to somebody. And, I kind of expect the same in return. And people have done it to me in return. Remember Skull Ripper 4900's video? That video, as kind of harsh as it was, there was honest criticism in that. And that's why I do not hate the video, nor do I, hate the fact that the video exists or anything like that. Like, me and him ended up patching things up in the spring of 2015, and we've been buddies ever since. And, the most I really feel about that video is that I would like, if people are going to watch it, don't act like it's still relevant, because a lot has changed since then. But that's kind of the nature of this kind of content, is most people do it with the intent to be helpful or constructive and all those really nice things. and whatnot. Leafy, I can understand not really making his videos with the intent of being constructive or anything like that. He just does it with the intent of just making fun of the people and whatnot. And I'm not going to say that that's wrong. I'm not going to say that no one's allowed to enjoy it and no one's allowed to make it and whatnot, because that shit's kind of subjective. But I really think that when it comes to what's considered harassment, there really needs to be a more clear-cut line that YouTube just does not seem to want to clarify. Like the most clarifying they ever did, the one thing that I know they made it really explicit that they're against is videos relating to ISIS. And, you know, maybe some other select touchy subjects, but that one specifically, because I remember back when I did that stream about the list of demonetized words, that specific one, that was the only one that was like automatic demonetizing if you use that word in your title or your description. I don't think it's the case when just saying the word out loud, because, you know, in order to do that, someone would have to be listening to this and reviewing it like all the way and whatnot. But when it comes to the metadata of the video, if they see it being used there or in the tags and whatnot, then that's an automatic demonetization. That's like the most specific that YouTube has ever been with their policies. They've always been really, really vague, and that's always been a problem that me and a lot of people have had with their policies and whatnot, especially this one. And it's annoying. And to get back to Leafy and, you know, him being terminated, it would be understandable if they specified if he was getting a strike, a second strike, a third strike, because that's how it's supposed to go down when it comes to, you know, getting your channel terminated for violation of community guidelines and all that. Is you need to be getting like 3 strikes, or some people have managed to, you know, get more than 3 strikes, and it takes, you know, a while for them to even get terminated. I remember, you know, some people, I think Nate for a while got by with having like 4 strikes and his channel didn't get terminated. It was weird. I have no idea how this is really enforced, but my understanding is it's supposed to be strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, just like fucking baseball. And when you get that 3rd strike, that's basically it. And I know there's a way. I think there's a way you can appeal a termination and get reinstated. And, you know, if Leafy wants to do that, that's one option he has, is to appeal the termination. The other option is to start fresh, which I'm not sure would be a particularly great idea, because, you know, you have to start all the way from the bottom, and it's gonna take quite a long while for you to get the sub count that you once had. And that's the problem I have whenever people start a new channel, because, oh, I'm tired of not getting the view to subscriber ratio that I want, so I'm going to start a new channel so that I'll get a better view to subscriber ratio, and then they just don't get the subscriber count that they want, and it ends up kind of being a waste of time. But that's kind of a whole other topic. But those are the 2 things that I guess Leafy can do. And the third option would be to just do nothing and just take this as a sign that, yeah, maybe I just wasn't meant to be back on YouTube or something like that, which would be an instance of self-reflection, honestly. You know? And to reference the follow-up video that EmpLemon made, that is something that was talked about during the portion of the video where he has a clip from a guy by the name of Tommy C, who had gotten in contact with Leafy a little bit before sending that clip. And, you know, he had mentioned something along the lines of that, yeah, it was probably for the best that I just stay away from YouTube and whatnot. And maybe, you know, something similar will be going on with the dude right now. And, you know, if that's how he feels, then okay. You know, it shows that you learned something, I guess. But if he does come back, whether it be through appealing the termination or through starting a new channel, you know, from there, you're sort of going to have to, I guess, make some compromises, I guess, because that's something that a lot of people on here find themselves having to do, sort of, trying to find a balance between making the kind of stuff that you want to make and that you enjoy making and that your fans enjoy watching, and, what you're allowed to do on YouTube these days. Finding that balance is very key to succeeding on YouTube. That's the way I've always seen it. And I'm someone that I believe has found that balance right now. But with others, it might not be that way. But I feel like I went on a tangent. I was talking about the strikes, and then I went to, appealing the termination. But, the way it's supposed to work, that's how I think the strike system is supposed to work. And it would have made sense if they had notified, like, oh, getting a strike for this, getting a strike for this, oh, and here's the third strike, uh-oh. And that would be about it. But to my understanding, it all just happened at once, and, like, without warning, I think. The only way I could understand it making sense is if, all of the Pokemon videos that he was making were getting flagged, like, at the same time, and as a result of that, the strikes were all coming in at the same time. I can understand that. That would make sense. It would still be kind of fucked that it's all happening at the same time and all that. But that would be understandable. But outside of that, I can't really say that I like the fact that he's terminated. And again, this is coming from somebody who isn't a fan of Leafy. Someone who doesn't like his content, who views him as, like I've been saying throughout this stream, just some douche who makes dumb roasting videos. And that's really it. But I don't really think that's enough to warrant termination. Like I said, it'd be understandable if he was violating the guidelines, in which case yeah, that's kind of the rules over here. And, if people want to make that argument, then I can agree, actually. But outside of that, I'm not sure if I like that. One other reason I'm not sure I like it is because there's probably people that get some nostalgia from, from some of his videos and whatnot, because I'm somebody that gets nostalgia from watching some particular videos. Me, I love my nostalgia, and nostalgia is a thing that a lot of people love, and, it's probably a blow to them if they don't have the videos archived and whatnot. It's a blow to them as well. Other than that, another thing about the termination is I don't want this, just like I was saying about the harassment policy, I don't want this to set an unfair precedent. Like, I don't want more and more people that make commentary, opinion content. I don't want more and more people that make that kind of content getting shut down, all because of stuff like this, because of, that being what harassment is in the eyes of YouTube. I don't want to see that happen. I don't think it will happen, but it's still something that I don't like the idea of happening. That's my hope from all this. I don't want to be hearing about more people getting shut down just because, they made a video about a specific person. That's a no-no because that's harassment or anything like that. Because, well, it isn't. Most of the time it isn't anyway. There are specific instances where it can be, mostly, but it really depends on context. And that's something that, I wish YouTube cared more about, is the context of certain videos in determining whether or not a video is flag worthy or demonetization worthy or copyright claim worthy or anything like that. That's why it's not really something I think can be done algorithmically. I can understand why they would feel the need to have algorithms for this because, millions of hours of content get uploaded daily on here. and there's only so much that individual people can really do. But you get what I mean when I say this. Is there needs to be a sense of nuance. There needs to be more understanding of context when it comes to whether something is harassment or whether something is like racist or sexist or bigoted or anything like that, or if something is copyright infringement, anything like that. There needs to be more of a sense of nuance of all this, and that's something that I think is really important. Was there anything else that I was wanting to talk about with this? I suppose to extrapolate on the, optimism and whatnot, and hoping that when people, take breaks, that they use that time to self-reflect and all that, and think about what they would do differently, where they probably slipped up and all that. And, what they would do differently if they were to do it all again and whatnot. I like to think that way about most people when they take breaks. When talking about a guy like Leafy, another person that should be coming to mind is GradeAUnderA. And he's somebody that's also, taken a number of long gaps from uploading. Like, I remember, when he made his comeback last year, he only made 3 videos, I think, all of last year. And this year, I think he made 4 or 5. When was his last video? Hold on. There's his channel. His last video was a month ago. So if he's on another one of his, breaks and whatnot, similar to how I felt last year, similar to how I felt after the last time he made a video, which was 2017, I think. I had I'd hoped that, he was using that time to self-reflect on, his attitude and whatnot, because he's definitely somebody that, has made mistakes and, probably went about things in a not amazing way when it came to his Keemstar videos, when it came to some other things and whatnot, probably. I still find his videos really funny. But, I'm not going to say that he's perfect. And I'd like to think, if he's taking these breaks, he's using that time to be like, okay, yeah, this was dumb. And whenever I come back, I'm going to do things this way. And I feel like one of the times when he made a comeback, I feel like it was probably for the best that he didn't really do any drama videos, because that was something that he definitely found himself in a lot of trouble over. And that was one thing I noticed, last year with the videos he was making, is that they weren't drama-related. This year, there was one drama-related video he did in regards to the H3H3 and Keemstar situation. Maybe, I guess he felt that, hey, I have a fresh mind on here. Maybe I'll be better at doing this drama thing, making drama-related videos and whatnot. I'm still waiting for the part 2 of that video, because he said there was going to be a part 2, and I don't know if that's going to be a thing anymore, especially because that drama is irrelevant now. But you get what I mean. I like thinking that people have it in them to reassess themselves, to reflect on their actions, and to have it in them to make any necessary changes to be a better version of themselves. I have that view about myself. I have that view about lots and lots of people. Again, the only people I don't have that view about are, the true lost causes of the world. And at this point in time, I hope that's the kind of internal dialogue that is going on in the mind of Leafy. Is, okay, yeah, okay. This definitely might have been a bit much. Okay, it's understandable, you know? And then just thinking about what he can do to, you know, I guess, better his mind, better his mood, and all that. You know, it's the kind of thing that I've been doing a lot lately, you know. One thing I meant to say at the beginning of this stream, but I'll do so now, is apologies for the lack of activity over the last month. That is one reason why I haven't really been making any videos or doing any streams and whatnot. That and the fact that I'm still trying to, you know, think of what I want my next idea, the next script I want to write to be on. I'm not sure I want to write a script about this. This is something I feel more comfortable just talking about off the cuff live with an audience than all that. And yes, Space Metal, UTF is an example of somebody that I view as a true lost cause, because everything is a cycle with him. Like, he always starts shit with people, then, you know, goes on a tirade against them, and then some time goes by and he apologizes to the person, and then the cycle just repeats. He thinks he has it in his head that he's supposed to hate the person, and so he finds some reason to not like the person and, you know, bicker at them again. And since everything's a cycle with him, then yeah, he is definitely an example of somebody that I view as a true lost cause. Anyway, that's one reason why I haven't really been doing a whole lot on here as of late. The other reason being, you know, I got some real life shit kind of keeping me busy. And another reason is, you know, there's been a lot of, you know, self-reflection on my end, and, you know, reevaluating a lot of things, because I've been noticing my mood hasn't been the most amazing the last couple weeks. And one thing, I posted about this on my personal Facebook, but one measure that I'm taking to improve my mood is not expose myself to anything that I know is going to piss me off. And that's one reason why I am really trying to distance myself from anything related to politics, because that is just something I'm just never happy talking about, like, with anybody. I mean, it's not to say that I'll never do it, or that I can't do it or anything like that, but it's just not something I really enjoy doing. And a big reason why is because it fucks with my mood, and I don't want my mood to be fucked with like that. So that's the kind of shit that's been going on out here in my real life. And again, I like to think that most people have it in them to have these kinds of, you know, conversations with yourself about these sorts of things, especially if they haven't been in the greatest of moods, or they've been doing some things that have not been looked at with approving eyes by people. You know, this is the kind of stuff that you should be doing with yourself. I like to think most people have it in them to do that. And hopefully Leafy does. You know, I don't think he's beyond improving. I don't think he's a lost cause. I don't really, you know, one could argue that, you know, not a whole lot about him really changed as far as his content goes. But I don't know. Again, with regard to the follow-up video that Emp made, especially when it came to the clips from Tommy C, you know, that gave an impression that, the impression that I got after listening to that is that, maybe he did, you know, have a big, long, you know, session of self-reflection and realized that, yeah, I guess it's really for the best that I walk away from YouTube and, you know, improve my mood and my attitude and all that. And, you know, from the sound of it, it sounded like he was doing better and, you know, doing better for himself and all that. And that's great. And if that's what he's got going on in real life, I wish the best. But that's my hope. My hope, whether he comes back or not, that is my hope for Leafy. I'm still not really a fan of his content, but that is my hope for the guy. That's me being my usual optimistic self, and, that's the way I think it should be. I don't know about you, but yeah. And apologies also for not really engaging with the chat, but you can tell I had a lot on my mind about this whole thing. One final thing that I want to mention before I feel like this conversation concludes, and I'll probably engage with the chat actually, is I feel like EmpLemon predicted all of this. Like, he painted a pretty clear narrative that YouTube really had it out for the guy. And the termination, I guess, was like the end goal, I guess. They really just wanted him gone. They thought he was just terrible. Oh, and this reminded me of one other thing, actually. But I'll finish this thought first. The fact that YouTube kind of made it obvious that they really had it out for the guy, I think is really validating, the whole narrative that Emp was really making with both of his videos on the subject. And it just goes to show even more why I respect him so much, why I love him so much. He is one of my favorite YouTubers at this point in time. Like I said, I've learned more about YouTube from his videos than anywhere else. If you guys aren't subscribed to him, you should be. His content is amazing. I love it. Whenever I use a downward spiral mention in my video, it's a nod to him, of course. But yeah, the other thing, actually, and this was actually something that was brought up in the follow-up video, was in the follow-up video, Emp had his fans ask questions about the Leafy video, and one person asked if YouTube has the power to pull this kind of shit with a guy like Leafy, what is stopping them from doing similar things with people who are arguably worse? And we've mentioned a couple people that are arguably worse, and in fact, not even arguably, objectively worse, I'm just gonna say. Yes, objectively worse. That's another thing that I think I'm just never going to understand about YouTube, is this weird, I'm not even sure I want to call it a double standard, but this weird inconsistency with them with regards to who they decide to yeet off the platform and who manages to avoid that. Like, Keemstar's avoided that, Onision has avoided that. Hopefully not for long, but they've both been avoiding that, when really, if you ask anybody, they deserve this kind of treatment way more than Leafy does. And one reason I think why is, one thing that Emp had said in the video was that YouTube tries to paint this image. They try to sell you this image of what being a YouTuber is like. They sell this image of these really attractive people living in these big mansions, driving these fancy cars, having all this money and all that. That's the image that they try to sell people to entice people to want to make content for the site, whether it be starting a new channel or, really pushing to get yourself to that level because it's more content being made for the site and, more revenue going in to their pockets, obviously. And I've wondered if maybe, and this is something that I remember Blue Magus talking about in his video that he made at the end of last year with regards to Onision and how he's been, escaping all of this for all these years. He called it the boy band effect, where, Onision is somebody that I guess they view as, like, conventionally attractive, I guess, which, I personally disagree with. I find him very hideous. But he's somebody that, has that kind of look that YouTube is trying to, sell. Kind of fits that mold a little bit. And maybe because of that, and because, he's somebody that, went super viral with the fucking I'm a Banana video, that YouTube feels like they feel like they need him around, which, again, I don't get do not agree with at all. I don't even really understand it at all. But that's my understanding of, because there were a lot of people that were asking, like, why couldn't they terminate Onision? Why did they terminate Leafy but not fucking Onision and whatnot? That's my best guess as to why. It's dumb, don't get me wrong, but that's my best guess. All right. Now I think I'm done talking about this topic. That was a lot. All right. I got a lot to catch up with the chat because I was just not responding to anybody. 2020 is an interesting time where 4chan has standards and Leafy isn't on YouTube anymore, and that's all I can say that's moderately smart / contributing to the conversation. Interesting is putting it nicely. Try Griffin Gaming. He's Leafy is here, but much less insufferable. I remember, people compared Pyrocynical to him as well. He's another person that I just never really got into. Definitely don't agree with everything Leafy had to say, but I did really enjoy the humor in his content, though. Yeah, and if people enjoy that kind of content, that's perfectly okay. If they find it funny, that's okay. Just because I don't doesn't mean that nobody should and whatnot. That's how subjectivity works. I like to think that people can change. Exactly. What are your thoughts on Leafy's videos about unicorns killed my girlfriend? I think I had heard about him doing a video on that. Never watched it, though, because I just don't really have any interest in it. But I knew that existed. Oh, yeah! Now I remember the Leafy comparison. That wasn't even on content. They just said that me, back when I had my long hair, and back when I didn't have facial hair, that I looked like Leafy. But even then, I had more of a fucking chin than him. So, yeah. That was my friend Bridget who made that picture. Finally, a time to say objectively at appropriate time. Yep. I really feel that YouTube is playing favorites with guys like Keemstar or Onision. Again, that's just something that I don't think I'm ever going to understand. Who YouTube considers a favorite, who YouTube considers like a mainstay or anything like that. That's just something that I don't think I'm ever going to understand. Ugh. They feel that he has the charm. Is that what you mean? Probably the charm and I guess the look is basically what I was getting at with, talking about the boy band effect. Like, that's what Blue Mages was getting at in his video on the subject. Yeah, that's the stuff that I feel like, making reference to when it comes to the chat. Yeah. Boy, like, this was a rant that I feel like I have not felt in a long time. I can't remember the last time I've ever just gone this far off the cuff for this long and whatnot. I like, my head feels kind of dizzy from all this. It's kind of a weird feeling. You are my fire. Pretty much. And now I have this weird image of Onision lighting himself on fire. Just to make that reference or something. Oh yeah, and another thing with the boy band effect, another thing I can bring up about Emp's video was, there was one point when he was like, usually to get as popular as Leafy did, you have to be a celebrity or a high-energy gamer, and Leafy was, none of those things. He didn't have, a really polished look. He didn't have a, frilly-looking hairdo or anything like that. He just looked like an average weirdo and whatnot. So he's somebody that I guess doesn't fall into that category and whatnot. So maybe that's another thing sort of playing into it. Like, he just looks so gross. Like, even in my feed right now, I haven't watched the video yet, but Repsion posted a video about Leafy being banned, and the face he's making in the thumbnail looks really creepy. Like, his eyebrows really scare me. Some people might rejoice to that. My opinion on mukbangers. What? I'm not sure what that means. I will read your messages, Space Metal, more thoroughly once I'm done streaming. If you're still watching, that is. Show. Mukbang is like eating in front of the mic. Oh, those kinds of people. Yeah, not my thing. Not my thing. I feel about them the way that a lot of people feel about Let's Play content when they say, why watch someone play a game when you can just play the game yourself? I feel that makes more sense with food content. It's like, why watch somebody eat food when you could just eat the stuff yourself? I can understand if it's like if it's for like review purposes, or if you don't know how to cook the stuff, or if you just don't have the necessary ingredients on you for it. But yeah, other than that, I don't get the appeal of content involving you just eating stuff. Mukbang is a type of vlog where people eat as they talk. Oh yeah, Nikocado Avocado. That's a name I've been hearing a good bit. That's a dumb name. But yeah, I'm kind of out of the loop with that guy. I know Right Opinion made a 4 fucking hour video all about him, and I kind of had that going in the background while I was doing some other stuff, so it didn't really have my full attention. So again, there's not really a whole lot I could really say about that. Since I was listening to it last night, which version of Trashin' the Camp Tarzan song do you like more? The movie version or the Phil Collins and NSYNC version? The movie version. Is Nikocado more stupid than Keemstar? I don't think so. I don't know. Again, there's not really a whole lot I know about Nikocado, but I don't know. It kind of takes a lot to be more genuinely unlikable than Keemstar. Also, Shays, do you believe Keemstar is just an evil and rotten to the core person? Evil might be a bit much of a word. I do think he is an extreme douche, who has done some pretty scummy things. One such thing that came to mind. You know, I talked about this in the stream that I did about the iDubbbz thing, where I basically, you know, towards the beginning when I talked about what got me into iDubbbz, and I briefly talked about Keemstar there. But the go-to example for me about why I really dislike Keemstar was when he exploited Take Shot Action's suicide stream that he was having, and you know, his fans were just completely giving Take Shot a hard time, and just making a really kind of traumatic situation just worse for everybody. It was really terrible. Like, I remember feeling like really on edge around that time. I remember like being in college and going to one of my classes. I remember telling this particular professor that there's a chance that I might have to leave class early, you know, because a friend of mine might kill himself. And thankfully I made it through the whole class, and I just rushed back over to my room and got on Skype to make sure everything was okay. Thankfully everything was okay, but it was not a good time. And Keemstar is a big part of why that was not a good time. Got a meeting with my counselor right now, so I'm going to head out for now. Okay, see you later, Hair Metal Brony. I mean, the name. Is his name more stupid than Keemstar's name? Yes. Because, you know, Keem is the guy's actual last name, Daniel Keem. But, Nikocado, avocado. It's like, why? Your thoughts on Glee? Never liked the show. Always thought the show was really overhyped, especially by, you know, the people that I went to camp with, because I went to a performing arts camp. Theater kids were, like, obsessed with Glee at the time, and I always thought it was just dumb and, you know, kind of a concept that I could see working, but I always just thought they just kind of wiped their asses with, you know, pop culture songs. The fact that they did a cover of fucking Friday by Rebecca Black should pretty much tell you what their, you know, intentions really are, what their motives really were, and whatnot. But yeah, I never got into the show, and I remember really hating that people just never shut up about it at the time. I bet Keemstar loves it when people cry, because when we see tears, he sees gold. Probably. He is a major fucking drama whore. He sees a fucking opportunity and he fucking sinks his teeth into it. And that is kind of something that an insane person would do. Mike the Snare, I don't know what that is. If that's the name of a band, then that's a weird name for a band. Other reasons I hate Glee is the lack of story and the behind the show, and Leah and Michelle are D-bags. Yeah. I also never really liked Gwyneth Paltrow that much. He's a YouTuber who's known for his 30-second album reviews and doing a video on music so bad it's good. Oh. There's a number of channels that I have a mental note that I want to check out and whatnot. It's got a few people on it, I think. I know I'm not a gamer, but heard of Star Citizen? No. No, the name doesn't ring a bell. I don't really pay attention to a lot of talk about video games. You know, whenever I see people talking about it on Facebook and whatnot, I pretty much just scroll past because it's just not really something that I care to look into or a conversation I really care to participate in. That's basically how it goes with me. Long story short, Star Citizen is, in my opinion, a scam since many dollars got invested, but nothing came out in years. One of those things. That is unfortunate. I feel like there was a story like that involving an album. I believe the band was As Blood Runs Black. I think White Wizard might have had a situation like that too, where they were crowdfunding an album and it was taking forever and whatnot, and people were getting really upset. Do you know how to do the Carlton from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? This is probably going to get a lot of people really shocked and probably angry, but I've never actually watched Fresh Prince of Bel-Air before. I'm interested in checking it out because the theme song rules. But I've never actually watched Fresh Prince before, unfortunately, so. It's actually one of quite a few shows that I have not given a proper watch yet. On my community tab, there's a poll that I have there where I was, asking where I was doing a poll asking which I should binge first between BoJack Horseman and Rick and Morty, because I've never watched either of them before, and it looks like BoJack won. I'm kind of leaning a bit towards Rick and Morty with that because it's shorter. There's less seasons, but BoJack got the most votes, but Fresh Prince is another show that is on the list of shows that I should really find time to watch once this thing that I'm currently doing in my real life is, settling down and I can actually start a binge and all that. Heard of one angry gamer. He's an asshole stuck in Gamergate that claims that anything progressive is an SJW, made a huge list of American traitors because they support BLM and human rights. Yes, I have heard of him. And he sounds like an asshole, honestly. Like, I have heard about that traitors list thing that he has. It's like, okay, this is getting a bit nuts. I think you need to chill out. And, he's someone that falls victim to that moral absolutist mentality and whatnot that a lot of SJWs are guilty of, making him not really any different. So, yeah, he's the opposite extreme that you want to keep a distance from. And speaking of Star Citizen, what do you think is the biggest scams in the music industry? To me, the Fire Festival. I'm not really sure. Huh. Do you think A Day to Remember have killed the hype for their delayed album? I'm still really curious when that album is coming out. I keep checking like every month, like what the status is with that album, and I don't seem to get anything. You know, the thing with that, because there was the single that they did with Marshmello that got people being like, I'm not feeling very hopeful about this. I'm still curious enough to see if I like it and whatnot, because A Day to Remember is a band that I very, very, very much like. And I don't want the album to suck, which is why I want to check this out, but it keeps getting delayed. And, doesn't help that, we're living at a time where lots of albums are getting delayed, and it's like, ugh. So, I'm sure some hype still exists, but I don't know. Someone just needs to say something about that. Hello, Pawn Hearts. Not to sound repetitive, but he defended Star Citizen and even used the N-word in a La Terry Davis of Temple OS fame. Like Terry Davis, I think one of the Greek suffers from a mental issue too. He just sounds like a moral absolutist dickwipe and whatnot. Just like a lot of people and whatnot. Moral absolutism is unhealthy. It is bad for you, and you will feel very crappy the more moral absolutism you engage in. The more you start to view all left ideas as SJW and all right-wing ideas as alt-right or Nazi or anything like that. It's a dangerous mindset, and you become very angry and miserable and bitter, and people find it less fun to be around you. You start to alienate people, and, it's another reason why I just really try to keep a distance from politics. The keyword is try, but, that's why I try to keep a distance. Speaking of hype, what are some bands that you feel didn't live up to the hype when they arrived? I'm sure a supergroup is probably a good answer for a question like that. I'm not sure I really had anything like that happen. I was thinking of something and then I just lost my train of thought. The moment when you forget to cut your nails and develop calluses on the wrong part of your finger. Oof. Your opinion on Lauren Chen, aka Roaming Millennial. Used to watch her a bit, got really kind of tired and whatnot. She used to be somebody that I would just listen to just to see what, right-leaning people tend to think about something. But she just got more and more tiring to listen to, especially when it came to that interview that she did with Girl Defined. It's like, this is just cringe. I don't hate her, don't think she's terrible, but not my thing. Not my thing. GTR, the Steve Hackett and Steve House supergroup. They have one good song, though, When the Heart Rules the Mind. One thing I should also say, I'm not sure I really like the term grifter. I always thought that word was just kind of thrown around a lot at people that make money, and it's like, I'm not the kind of person that really complains about people making money and whatnot, not unless they're scamming people and whatnot, and it's like a legit scam and whatnot. But outside of that, I feel like complaining about how people make money is kind of an archfiend thing to do, and I'm honestly really past that, and that's why I get kind of annoyed that's why I kind of eye roll whenever I see the word grifter, because to me that's kind of what it usually boils down to. It's like whatever. I was shocked to find out that Macaulay Culkin is a fan of Frederick Knutson's Down the Rabbit Hole. I hope he covers Aaron Carter soon. He's another person that's on that list I was mentioning before of, channels I really need to check out. Other people on that list include, let me find it. Mr. 96 is someone that I have on that list. He's someone that was mentioned before, someone that I know of. And I'm also kind of wanting to watch more Uncle Al to see if he's somebody that I really want to subscribe to. I feel that. And yes, I'm taking from ARTV's video. Danger Kids and Angels and Airwaves are some bands that don't live up to the hype. Maybe even Versa Merge. Angels and Airwaves, I like their first 2 albums fine. Danger Kids I never got into. Machine Gun Kelly, rock song in the Hot 100 chart. That was something I think Punk Rock MBA talked about in his Sad State of Rock video. I think he talked about Machine Gun Kelly in there. I think he did anyway. My thoughts on MGK, never really took some time to listen to him. The most thought I really gave to him was when he was having that beef with Eminem and whatnot, and I just wasn't really a fan of the attitude he decided to kind of take when it came to making that diss track, and I feel that Eminem's response was kind of justified. That's like the most thought I ever really gave Machine Gun Kelly. I think he also played Tommy Lee, I think, in the Motley Crue movie that The Dirt. I think he played Tommy Lee in that, I think. Yeah. Go to Wikipedia. The Dirt film. Yep. Yep, Colson Baker, known professionally as Machine Gun Kelly. He played Tommy Lee. I don't like MGK, but he's the only one who can help rock in the mainstream. I wouldn't say he's the only one. Post Malone is someone I view as someone that is helping it. And in that video of Punk Rock MBAs that I mentioned, he mentions a number of people that are implementing rock or emo elements into their stuff, and he basically sends the video off by saying that, that rock fans and rock musicians should either be okay with this and be very welcoming of this, or they just continue to kind of be gatekeepers and kind of scoff at that shit. It might not be for me, but if it's helping, then it's helping, and I support helping. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I like Post. I think he's cool. I do think I should have put Circles higher on my best songs of 2019 list. I think, in my opinion, new rock band and metal band need to have an image. Yeah, I'd say it kind of depends what kind of an image it is. Like, I'm not really sure we need any, like, super gimmicky bands and whatnot. You know, I kind of give my opinion on that in the video, and a video that I made, you know, a few years ago called "Are Gimmicks Bad?" It's not really something I'm sure we really need these days, are like really gimmicky bands, but, you know, having a marketable image, I would say, is kind of important these days. And, you know, more than that, you know, another thing that Finn likes to say a lot is you need to have a star in the band, somebody who is the face of the band, somebody who is the character of the band and whatnot. And that's something that people should definitely, you know, try to have going for them. And yep, he also, you know, mentions that rappers are better at that. They're better at being characters. They're better at being their own faces, I guess. Punk rock NBA definitely helped me be more accepting of who's helping the rock genre. Me too. He's helped on a lot of things with me. That is why I love that channel so very much. Might not agree. Sorry. Might not agree with him all the time, but he is one of my favorite channels for largely that reason. I miss whimsical jellyfish like Power Pop. Now I'm thinking of the Jellyfish Jam episode of SpongeBob. Facts. A star in the band. Take, for example, Nirvana with Kurt Cobain. There are plenty of examples, you know. In fact, Punk Rock NBA's most recent video talks about somebody that was the face of a band, Fred Durst. You can feel how you want about Limp Bizkit, but Fred Durst was the face in the band. He was the character in the band. He was what got the attention on the band. He's a good example. Some other examples, Blink-182 are pretty much all faces, kind of. You know, I could go on, but you need to have a face. Kurt Cobain was getting media attention in the 90s. Yeah, he was basically the face there. You know, it was thanks to him that, you know, a number of, you know, bands that he liked from his community got attention, like the Melvins. Like, I don't think a lot of people would really know the Melvins unless they were, like, really into, you know, the Seattle underground scene, were it not for Kurt Cobain. I might not be a fan of Kurt Cobain, but that's one thing I appreciate about him. Pete Wentz, the face of the band, even though he was the bassist, that's another thing I always found kind of weird. He was definitely the face in that band. He was, you know, the one that got all the girls and all that. Like, the other members of Fall Out Boy are honestly really ugly, but not him, though. That's what I always found to be really weird about Fall Out Boy. Even though I hate Fred Durst, I agree with him. Yeah, exactly. I personally think he's a really good meme. But yeah. It's because of how much of a meme he is that is what is to appreciate about, you know, how attention was garnered for Limp Bizkit, is because of how much of a meme that man was and still is. Yeah, Patrick doesn't have the star power, neither do Joe and Andy. Like, all of them look like fucking indie hipsters. But then there's Pete Wentz, who looks like a fucking, you know, pop punk pretty boy. Sure We're Going Down is the only Fall Out Boy song I like. I never really liked that song. I only really like Fall Out Boy's first album. You know, I think it's a solid pop punk album. I just never really liked their other stuff. It was never really my thing. But I do not hate them. Pete Wentz, Brendan Urie, Billy Joe Armstrong, Chester Bennington, Chad Kroger. Yep, Chad Kroeger too. He's another example of a meme who, memeability is kind of one thing that makes him kind of the face in the band. Like, he's the only member of Nickelback you can really name. Like, I can name the other ones, but he's the only one that most people can really name, and that is kind of saying something. Yep. It's important to have a face. Have your band's face. Like, I would say Alter Bridge has a face. They have two faces, actually. Mark and Miles. They're both kind of the faces in the band. Wonder Years, since I'm wearing the shirt, I guess they have a face with Soupy. I don't know, maybe. Ironically, Tillian is the best looking guy in DGD, yet he's not the star. I would argue he kind of is. I mean, obviously, I think Will Swan is basically the core of the band. But I think Tillian might be kind of the attraction part, playing into the attraction, I guess. I only know Chad Kroeger and Nickelback. Me, I'm someone that actually does enjoy Nickelback, so I can name the other members, or at least the current ones. Guitarist is Ryan Peake. Bassist is Mike Kroeger, which is Chad's brother, of course, and the drummer is Daniel Adair. I like having these conversations in the streams. I'm realizing that two things that always seem to take place in my streams are talking about the state of rock and just talking about Disney movies. I like that. Pretty Odd is my favorite Panic album because it sounds like an XTC album. Oranges and Lemons with a hint of skylarking. The only album kind of similar with Fall Out Boy. The only album I really like of theirs is the first album, Fever You Can't Sweat Out. Other than that, it's just basically some select songs, like I mentioned this in Best Songs of 2019. Death of a Bachelor is a really good song. Pete Wentz is especially important for bassists because nobody loves bassists. That's always kind of unfortunate. Well, I mean, unless the bassist is Davey 504 or, Les Claypool or Flea and whatnot. Like, you shouldn't have to be a fucking slap wizard in order to be a respectable bassist that, gets, some attention and appreciation and whatnot. In my Green Day video, I talked about, how Mike Dirnt is one of my favorite bassists, along with Steve Harris and Joe Principe. There's probably some others too. But I like when when the bassist in a band is, getting some attention, because it almost never happens. Patrick Stump sounds like Brendan Urie, always confused about Fall Out Boy and PATD. Sort of. Oh, Paul McCartney too. Yes, that's another example of a bassist that was, a face and whatnot. Like, really all the Beatles were faces. Maybe not so much Ringo, but all of them were their own type of face and whatnot. I'd say Flea is my favorite bassist. He's definitely one of mine too. Molding. Slightly more people love John. Yeah. Like, it was between John and Paul that were like, who was the favorite in the Beatles. It was always between the two of them. George was always third place. And then there's Ringo just, kind of sitting, pouting in the corner. His bass solo in RCP made me a fan of them. He certainly has a number of them. Mayor of Simpleton is better than any RHCP bassline. Colin Molding, bitch. Paul has the better solo career. Agreed. Paul was always my favorite solo career of the Beatles, then followed by George, then followed by John, and I've never listened to Ringo solo. I wonder if Davey 504 was in a band before. He probably thinks he's too good for one. I don't know. Who made it a sin to play bass with a pick? That's one of Davey 504's memes. But I don't think it's a sin. You know, I play with a pick a number of times. It mostly depends on the genre, though. Like, with more aggressive styles, people tend to play bass with a pick. But in some of the more, laid-back kind of approaches, they fingerstyle it. Chris Squire, that too. Oh, there's a good name right there. God rest his soul to him. My favorite Ringo solo is Thomas the Tank Engine. That's right. He was a narrator on Thomas the Tank Engine. And now for a funny story related to that. Because my parents used to have some Thomas the Tank Engine tapes where Ringo was narrating. And that's how I first learned who he was. Then when they started playing the Beatles in the car and they told me the names of the members and whatnot, I'm like, wait, the same Ringo that does the Thomas stories? And that was my very wholesome, adorable story right there. Davey 504 wants to convert all guitarists into bassists. Pretty much, Personally, I think his videos are better when he's just having fun playing bass and not really doing anything else. Because his videos, I feel like, have become kind of annoying but also ironically funny as of late. That's my feeling of his content these days. Ugh. Not gonna lie, it's actually battled the legend Herman Lee of Dragon Force. Yep, I remember that. That was enjoyable, as was his battle with the Dew. That was fun too. Thoughts on Ichiko Nico? He's that Instagram guitarist, right? Really talented dude, from what I've seen. I appreciate a good, sort of fingerstyle math player and whatnot. He's kind of like the male Yvette Young, I want to say. And if you don't know who Yvette Young is, shame on you. Hate when my eyelashes get kind of stuck together. He also has a YouTube channel. I plan on making Guilty Pleasures series. Cool. That's right. That's a nut. I really need to make that follow up. I'm just not sure if I want my next video to be a countdown. Because I don't like doing a bunch of countdowns in a row because those take the longest for me to make. And they're the videos I kind of spend the most time with. So, I do plan on getting to that. It's just a matter of when. Sound of Music is, wait, I skipped one. Who is more metal, Vikings or Pirates? Probably Vikings, I guess. I personally enjoy Pirates more, but probably Vikings. Sound of Music is my very first cheeky musical to all but my childhood nonetheless. Weird grammar there. But yeah, Sound of Music, I'm sure, played at least some role in our lives. Sorry, Ailstorm, but you're nothing compared to Bathory. I disagree. Ailstorm are absolutely wonderful in the same way that Amon Amarth is very wonderful. If you were a pirate, what would you bury as your treasure? Probably out-of-print CDs. Thinking it's about time I cut the stream. This was fun. I enjoyed that rant in the beginning where I just totally went off talking about the Leafy termination and all that comes with it, and we had a nice discussion about, the faces of a band and all that, talking about bass, and all that stuff. This was fun. EmpLemon should make a There Will Never Be Another Band Like Beatles, Ecstasy, Pink Floyd episode. I would love to see him do a music-related Never Ever video. That would be really cool. Corey Taylor latest solo project. I listened to, I think the first single that he did that had a bunch of guest verses. It sounds entertaining. I'm interested in checking out whenever that album comes out. Speaking of pirates, did you know that Pirate Anime and Megas? Wait a second. No, I did not heard about that, but that's making me worried about. I need to check and make sure that this site still works. Yay! Kim Cartoon still works. Yay. That's unfortunate. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. This was a lot of fun. And take care. Have a nice night.